on the 26th of March, so very recent. I'll try and get this video out as soon as I can. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Boris Johnson urged to trigger Article 16 as expert warns Irish nationalists are set to win the Stormont election. So it looks like the potential victory for Sinn Féin in the Stormont elections is leading to a massive panic within Downing Street, or within Cabinet really. So the Attorney General, who's meant to be there to give Cabinet members legal advice, has probably not given the best legal advice, especially when we look at the specifics of the Northern Ireland Protocol and Article 16 specifically. So the AG has been among senior Tories privately pushing for the government to trigger Article 16 without delay. The Telegraph can disclose, as a Conservative election expert said, Sinn Féin was on course to win control of the Northern Ireland Executive within weeks. And so what they're saying is trigger Article 16, cause a massive mess before this election thing happens, and hope for the best really. Suella Braverman and Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Brexit Opportunities Minister, are understood to have been privately pressing for Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, to trigger the mechanism that would allow ministers to override the parts of the post-Brexit agreement with the EU. And the AG is not really meant to be that political. The AG is there mostly for legal advice, so she's getting very much involved in politics, as she has done consistently. I think she talked about how a jury was wrong on a legal decision. It's like, you're the AG, pal. You need to understand your role. You're not Bill Barr. Like, the AG in the UK is very different to the American one. Braverman is said to have provided formal legal advice stating that Article 16 can and should be triggered by the UK. Now, there is the correct interpretation of Article 16, which we'll go through, and there is the incorrect interpretation of Article 16, which we'll go through now, which is that it will get rid of the protocol and everything will be great, and trade goods will be able to flow from GB to NI with no problem, and the EU can suck it. That's the wrong interpretation. We'll talk about the right one at the end of the video. She sits on the two cabinet committees that oversee trade talks and implementation of the withdrawal agreement. Sources said the likelihood of the mechanism being triggered ahead of the Stormont poll on May the 5th was now negligible, with pre-election period beginning this week. It's not going to happen. The Telegraph revealed this month that Miss Truss had set out plans to put the potential triggering of Article 16 on hold due to the Ukraine crisis, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and help Northern Ireland businesses with an economic stimulus package, including tax cuts instead. Obviously, Liz Truss had it all in hand. It's just, damn it, Vlad, you had to invade Ukraine just as I was going to do Article 16. Now my attention is taken elsewhere. Yeah, of course, Liz. Of course, these ministers are desperate to appear to be tough, to appear to be the ones that are taking this whole thing seriously, when I don't think they really care about it. Sunak doing badly or sort of stuttering in the polls a bit, which is something I'll talk about at another time, has given Liz Truss a bit of an opening here, and I do wonder what she's going to do to take it, because she's not been doing that great either. Many Brexiteers fear that the government will lose its opportunity to obtain meaningful changes to the protocol if talks were allowed to drift beyond the Stormont poll on May the 5th. And what's interesting is, if Sinn Féin do win, become the largest party, and Michelle O'Neill becomes First Minister, whenever the government tries to justify doing Article 16 or whatever, she's probably going to go out and say, actually, there's no justification for this, and that's why the government are panicking. Lord Hayward predicted that Sinn Féin would come out as the largest single party, and again, that's backed up by polling. If you actually look at some of the polling here, Sinn Féin are on 26%, sorry, my mouse on this article, 26%, and the DUP on 19%. So it's a big jump for them to catch the DUP in the election, an outcome that would result in Northern Ireland's first Sinn Féin First Minister. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that is, which again, does show you that unionism is failing in Northern Ireland, because if it wasn't for Brexit, I don't think this would be happening right now. If Sinn Féin win the poll, Johnson would face attempting to secure changes to the protocol that are opposed by Northern Ireland's First Minister, and again makes it very politically awkward for him, because Sefcovic can easily say, look man, your First Minister over there who's actually dealing with this stuff is saying this actually isn't a problem, so what are you talking about, pal? Paul Givan, who was DUP First Minister until his resignation last month, strongly supported the government's calls for changes to the protocol amid concerns that the document's requirements were harming Northern Ireland's businesses. So Paul Givan's fully on board with Article 16 and all the other stuff with it, but Michelle O'Neill won't be. Braverman and Rees-Mogg are both former leaders of the European Research Group, the ERG. So again, it shows you how stupid these both of them are, and how kind of dogmatic they are. That they are firmly believing that this is the right thing to do when it really isn't. David Jones is deputy chairman and said negotiations between Truss and Šefčovič, her EU counterpart, appeared to become bogged down, and said Article 16 should be triggered to revive serious negotiations. Now, this tells me that his interpretation of Article 16 may be the one that's closer to the what it actually means. But again, we don't know because these people aren't very bright. He says we need to find a way of getting out of the mire, and the best way of doing that is by invoking Article 16, which will be the precursor of a new negotiating mandate, which is not true. It won't lead to a new mandate on behalf of the EU. That's not true at all. The only way you get a new mandate is through new elections. That's how you get a new mandate. You set out your stall, and if whoever is voting for you believes in it, they back you, you win a majority or whatever you need to do to win, therefore you get a new mandate. You don't get a new mandate by triggering triggering Article 16. That makes no sense, honestly. Lord Hayward said in Northern Ireland, I think there will be a constitutional issue because for the first time Sinn Féin will actually come out as the largest single party in Northern Ireland, which does show you kind of the opinions of people in Northern Ireland, that they're backing a nationalist party over the unionist one. He described unionist parties as being in a complete mess, which is true because, again, the Tory party keep lying to them. He keeps saying, oh, mate, we're going to do this thing, and he feeds that back, and it's an endless loop, really, of bad things. Predicting that the unionist vote will be split, allowing Sinn Féin to emerge as the largest party. And if the DUP were smart, they would say, look, there's no point backing the TUV and the UUP and whoever else are the unionist parties, because they ain't going to win. The best chance of retaining the seat of First Minister is to back the DUP. That's what he should be saying right now. It's not democratic, but they don't really have much of a choice if they want to win. In an interview with The Telegraph, Truss does not deny having shelved the idea of using Article 16 before May the 5th, insisting that Article 16 remains on the table as an option. But, the simple fact is, with the situation in Ukraine, pushing for more unity between the UK and the EU, Liz Truss would be very stupid to do so, and so would Boris Johnson. But they're not very bright. No one said they were. But Liz Truss being very limited, she would struggle, I think, dealing with so many things at once. Her remit is huge, as I said. She's the Women's and Equalities Minister, she's the Brexit Minister, and she's also the Foreign Secretary as well. That's a lot of stuff for her to do, and I don't think starting a trade war with the EU would be very smart, especially when the West needs unity now more than ever. And by doing this now would break a lot of the bonds. The Americans would want to get involved, given that they played a major role in the Good Friday Agreement. So it's just a very stupid idea to try and do any of this stuff now. It's a stupid idea at any time of the year, but especially now. Foreign Secretary wrote to Johnson outlining proposals to boost trade between Britain and Northern Ireland with tax breaks and unilateral green lane, which, again, this idea is stupid, allowing goods that would remain in the UK to cross the Irish Sea with minimal paperwork. Again, how do you know what does stay in Northern Ireland and what doesn't go to Ireland? How do you know, especially since the UK is reluctant to give up data on exports and things like that of goods going between GB and NI to Ireland? The British government are very cagey and don't want to give up the details and the data, so why would the EU allow this? It doesn't make sense. A source who discussed the plan with our favourite Victorian said he was open to the idea, but again, I think the EU would have to accept this. This won't be a unilateral proposal. A unilateral green lane won't happen. I don't know the specifics. If you do know, let me know, but I don't think this will be possible unless the EU allow it. The plan is seen by Truss as a way to avoid a major confrontation with the EU at a time when she is simultaneously helping to coordinate a united international response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which, again, is she doing the greatest job of that? I don't know. But yeah, unity is needed now more than ever. Michelle O'Neill, Sinn Féin's vice president, said she has defended the protocol, saying that it arose as a result of Sinn Féin's campaign for special status for Northern Ireland. I don't know how true that is, but Northern Ireland has been given a special status, and it needed it because of the situation around the history of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Simply the case that something had to be done, and in Sinn Féin, I don't know specifics. Again, I wasn't too clued in. I'm still not too clued in on the situation within Ireland and Northern Ireland, but if they did play a major part in that, then fair play to them. Anyways, it's an important article because, again, Braverman is in charge of giving legal advice. And if we actually look at the Article 16, right, so we'll go into a bit of jargon here. If the application of this protocol leads to a serious, this is the bit they always quote, right, leads to a serious economic, societal, or environmental difficulties that are liable to persist or to a diversion of trade, the Union of the United Kingdom may unilaterally take appropriate safeguard measures. Such safeguard measures shall be restricted with regard to their scope. So they can't they can't get rid of the protocol. It's got to be very limited and specific, as Brandon Lewis would say, and the duration to what is strictly necessary, which is strictly necessary in order to remedy the situation. So if there are specific issues around certain aspects of trade, they can take actions to remedy those. However, we'll go into more specifics about that. Priority shall be given to such measures at least as will least disturb the functioning of this protocol. So it doesn't get rid of the protocol. The Article 16 is there to protect the protocol, but it's whatever's affecting the protocol has to be dealt with in a very limited and specific way. It can't be broad in scope. It goes on, so you got paragraph 2, which says, as the case may be, may take such proportionate rebalancing. Again, won't let you get rid of all of it, it's got to be proportionate, as are strictly necessary to remedy the imbalance. Priority shall be given to such measures as will least disturb the function of the protocol. So maybe the stuff around Cumberland sausages could have been something if it caused serious societal problems or economic problems. But again, Northern Ireland has access to a lot of raw meat, really, because of its agricultural land, and as well as with Ireland, they could import that stuff from Ireland if they wanted to. Now, this is the important bit which no one really seems to mention, apart from The Guardian, so credit to them. Safeguarding and rebalancing measures must be taken in accordance with paragraphs 1 and 2 shall be governed by the procedures set out in Annex 7 to this protocol. So to look at this stuff in broader context, you have to look at Annex 7 and paragraphs 1 and 2. So that's what we're going to do. We've got paragraph 5 in here for good measure. So paragraph 1 of the Annex says that where the Union of the United Kingdom is considering taking safeguarding measures under Article 16 of this protocol, it shall be without delay notify the Union or the United Kingdom as the case may be. So whichever side is going to trigger Article 16 has to notify the other side immediately without delay through the joint committee, shall provide all relevant information. So they have to say exactly what's going on and why they want to do this. The Union and the United Kingdom shall immediately enter into consultations in the joint committee with a view of finding commonly acceptable solutions. So it doesn't immediately get rid of the protocol, any of this nonsense, or even remedy the situation wherever they're talking about. It leads to further talks. That's what happens through the joint committees. The Union or the United Kingdom, as the case may be, may not take safeguard measures until 1 month has elapsed after the date of the notification under point 1. So if they did it today, they couldn't take any actions until 1 month has passed. Under the consultation procedure, under point 2, has been concluded before the expiration of the state limit. When exceptional circumstances requiring immediate action exclude prior examination, the Union or the United Kingdom, as the case may be, may apply forthwith with protective measures strictly necessary to remedy the situation. So if the situation is was very extreme or dire, they can take action, but again, it depends. They would have to have permission, I think, from the other side to take immediate action without the 1 month delay. And even then, if the other side don't agree to it, then they can suspend the trade and cooperation agreement. That's my interpretation of this. Anyways, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any legal expertise or any expertise for that matter, but that's the way I've kind of read into it. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, feel free, and if it's egregious, I'll do a correction video. The safeguard measures taken shall be the subject of consultations in the joint committee every 3 months. So even if Article 16 is triggered successfully next month, for example, every 3 months there'll be talks again to kind of review the situation and see if it's been dealt with. So every 3 months from the date of their adoption with a view to abolition before the date of expiry envisaged. That's a complex word. So essentially every 3 months they'll come back and say, look, has the situation been resolved? We need to resolve it before the next meeting if possible. Who is on these joint committees? So I don't know everyone who's on it, but as far as I know of, Maros Sefcovic, of course, is on it, and Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is on it. She co-chairs the joint committee of the withdrawal agreement. So you've got those two on there, and probably a couple other people, but those two will be the main people. So essentially, she's going to have to justify it to Maros Sefcovic why we've taken these actions. And if Sefcovic is like, I don't think so, buddy, then the EU can start suspending parts of the trade cooperation agreement. It can go to the European Court of Justice. It can go through arbitration, which is stuff we've talked about in previous videos. It just depends on the situation. Depending on what outcome happens, it can be very quickly or very slowly if it goes to court or arbitration. So, Suella Braverman, the point the ERG guy made, wherever that's gone, he might have a point there that it could add a fresh impetus. However, there are things like time limits. There would be big expectations, and again, the UK would have to justify. It would have to justify a position as to why we've suspended bits of the protocol, and would have to justify it to Sefcovic, which will be quite difficult if we don't have any good reason to. Which generally we don't have a good reason. And you can't go with Britannia rules the waves and waves the rules, or we're Great Britain, we do what we want. I don't think Sefcovic will accept either of those. But I don't know exactly what advice Suella Braverman has given. If it's the advice that it might add fresh impetus to the talks, or under the this bit here, the societal, economic, or environmental impact or difficulties, which are liable to persist. If she's said that these things do apply and therefore we can trigger Article 16, then fair enough. If she's just gone for the standard Brexiteer approach of do Article 16, get rid of the protocol, then that's not great advice in my opinion. I could be wrong, but anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. This article is dated 26th of March, so I'll do a quick one.